Since ancient times, the financial elite have been planning, waiting. Dreams of domination, of total control, have been passed down. Their plan has changed hands countless times, but its core goal has remained unchanged, nurtured through generations. From Caesar to Charlemagne, from Napoleon to Roosevelt, and down to the present day, and the first generation with the technology to carry that plan out. When they unleash it on an unsuspecting public, there will be no time to prepare, no time to react. In just 48 hours, the elites will freeze bank and brokerage accounts worldwide. Millions of Americans will lose access to their own money, in some cases, forever. And the elites will have seized unprecedented control over our money and our very lives. But one of their most respected members has decided to break ranks. He has agreed to expose their plan today in full. What he reveals over the next few minutes could save your family from sudden financial ruin. As you're about to see, it could one day save your life. Hello, I'm John Burke for the Daily Reckoning. We are coming to you today from our perch overlooking the White House in our nation's capital. Welcome to this emergency briefing with Jim Rickards, financial threat and asymmetric warfare advisor to the White House, Pentagon, and CIA. Rickards joins us today with an urgent warning, one he hopes all Americans will heed. According to Jim Rickards and members of the U.S. intelligence community, the time to prepare has arrived. Mr. Rickards, welcome to our broadcast.
My pleasure, John. Thank you for having me.
Now, your team has identified a network of elite operatives, and they have wormed their way into many of the most powerful financial institutions on earth. This list includes the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank, the United Nations, and every central bank in the G20, including our own Federal Reserve. When the signal sounds, you predict that this network will pull the plug on the global financial system. Now, that will cause every bank, brokerage, and business to go dark in a massive coordinated attack. Their latest hit list, if you will, includes some 5,967 banks, such as Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and JP Morgan Chase. But they won't stop at the banks. These elite operatives will move to take control of approximately 3,800 asset managers as well. Now, Jim, you expect to see them seize control of BlackRock for nearly $5 trillion, Fidelity for $2 trillion, Vanguard for $3 trillion, and UBS and State Street for a combined $5 trillion or so. And when the freeze comes, citizens nationwide will lose access to their money almost instantly. No cash will be allowed to enter or exit the system without the network's approval. And Donald Trump's presidency will not likely survive the chaos about to ensue. But before we get to the details about this, I want to remind our viewers of your background, Jim. In the 1970s, you helped the White House to craft the petrodollar accord. Your actions helped to save the U.S. dollar and the oil embargo and sidestep war in the Middle East. In 1981, you helped the Reagan administration negotiate an end to the Iran hostage crisis, saving 53 American lives. In the 1990s, you helped the Fed wind down long-term capital management, averting a collapse of the global financial system. After 9/11, the CIA recruited you to assist on a counterterrorism project called Project Prophecy. You created a system to detect terrorist attacks before they happen by decoding complex financial signals. In 2006, Prophecy detected a looming terrorist attack in London. Officials were able to intercept the attackers, saving countless lives. That same year, you began warning our intelligence officials in Washington of a looming financial crisis. In September 2006, the CIA circulated your warning among its senior staff. Your full thesis appeared in the CIA's official journal, Studies in Intelligence. That material remains classified. However, on August 24, 2007, you shared the same warning with officials from the U.S. Treasury Department. You even supplied Treasury with a plan for averting the crisis called Proposal to Obtain and Manage Information in Response to Capital Markets Crisis. Unfortunately, Washington failed to act on your warnings in time. The result was the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Now, Jim, you say we're about to experience a radically new kind of crisis, one that will freeze the financial system, leading to global chaos. In your new book, The Road to Ruin, you write, the next financial crisis will not be merely a bigger version of the 1998 and 2008 crises. It will be qualitatively different. It will encompass multiple asset classes on a global scale. It will exhibit inflation not seen since the 1970s, insolvency not seen since the 1930s, and exchange shutdowns not seen since 1914. State power will be summoned to contain panic. Capitalism will be discredited once and for all. Not only will the coming crisis destroy more investor wealth than 2008, not only will it last much longer than the Great Depression, this crisis will be historic for another reason. And I'm talking about this network of elites using the crises for cover. At the appointed hour, they'll launch their attacks, and the financial system will go dark worldwide. Trillions will vanish instantly, and in many cases, permanently. And hundreds of millions of Americans will be cut off from their own money for months or even years. Now, this sounds like the biggest confiscation of wealth in history. There's no doubt. So, Jim, let me ask you, could you please share with our viewers where this threat is coming from and how to prepare?
Let's start with some background and context, because I know this must sound hard for some viewers to believe. I was having dinner with a friend not long ago in New York City. We met at a place called Oriole, which is in Midtown. My dinner companion that night was a senior advisor to BlackRock. As you may know, BlackRock is now the largest asset manager on the planet. It directly manages $5 trillion in assets, and it oversees another $11 trillion through its Aladdin platform. That means one firm controls more money than the GDPs of China, Russia, and Japan combined. Anyway, my dinner companion happens to work directly for BlackRock's CEO. As we nursed our white wine and the evening wore on, she let something slip. If I remember her words, she said something like, "They want to tell us we can't sell." What was she talking about? Who was she talking about? I placed a few calls, first to my contacts in Washington, then to a few people on Wall Street. Soon I was on a plane for a series of meetings to London, to Geneva, back to New York, then down to South America. As I began connecting the dots, a pattern emerged. It revealed a network of more than 189 individuals positioned inside the world's major financial institutions. Some of them hold senior positions inside the IMF, World Bank, and every central bank in the G20, including our own Federal Reserve. These elites share one vision, and they're about to make it a reality. That vision is one world order, one world taxation, and one world money. They've worked for years behind the scenes preparing to realize that vision. They've literally rigged the laws of international finance. Everything is basically in place right now, and there's essentially no way to stop this from happening. When the crisis hits, they'll flip the switch, freezing the global financial system. That will give them time to reset the world economy according to their vision. As the coming crisis unfolds, President Trump will be powerless to stop it. In fact, trying to stop them would probably weaken the president's power altogether.
That is amazing, Jim, really. So what did these elites want from your contact at BlackRock?
Basically, they want to classify BlackRock as too big to fail. The technical term is Systemically Important Financial Institution, or SIFI. That designation normally applies to banks, such as Bank of America. If your bank gets the SIFI label, it means the government will bail you out first in a crisis. But it also means you must turn over control of your bank until the crisis subsides. In this case, they're trying to reclassify BlackRock, an asset manager, as too big to fail. If they succeed, they'll be able to freeze BlackRock when the crisis hits. BlackRock clients won't be able to sell. They won't be able to buy either. Their accounts will go dark indefinitely, and the elite operatives will take control of BlackRock's assets remotely via the internet. But our research shows that their ICE 9 plan goes much, much deeper than that.
Now, you refer to their plan as ICE 9. You just said that. What does that mean?
It's a reference to the Kurt Vonnegut novel, Cat's Cradle. In the book, a mad scientist creates a new form of water molecule called ICE 9. When it comes in contact with other water molecules, it freezes them at room temperature. One drop of ICE 9 can freeze the whole ocean. And that's what these elite operatives are about to do to the world economy.
Now, can you share with our viewers exactly who these operatives are and what their ultimate goal might be?
Like I said, John, more than 189 elite agents have slowly wormed their way into leadership positions across the board. They now sit at or near the head of the IMF, the World Bank, and even our own Federal Reserve. They also control much of what happens at the central banks of China, Russia, India, Brazil, Canada, and Europe. As you know, these institutions form a kind of global superstructure. It forms a kind of snare net encircling all nations. Their leaders aren't democratically elected. They're not accountable to you and me. They're beyond the reach of government and citizens, and yet they hold the fate of the global financial system in their hands.
Won't our cash be safe in the banks?
No. In fact, the biggest bank freeze to date happened right here in the USA. Of course, I'm talking about Roosevelt signing Proclamation 2039 in 1933. With one stroke of his pen, FDR shuttered every bank in America. A few weeks later, he followed up by freezing the entire gold market. Executive Order 6102 literally outlawed citizens from owning gold. That freeze lasted 41 years until Gerald Ford ended that freeze in 1974. When the coming crisis hits, we'll see this repeated on a larger scale through the IMF, World Bank, and the Fed. Again, there will be nothing the White House can do. They have no direct control over the institutions that will carry this out. Not even the U.S. president can control the Fed. Same with the IMF, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, or the People's Bank of China. We're about to see on a global scale with ICE 9. We're just waiting for the next domino to fall.
How about the Federal Reserve? I mean, won't it be able to step in with more money printing to stabilize the system? Isn't that what we
The people who run the Fed are true believers in the vision. One world order, one world taxation, one world money. They've done their part to undermine the dollar, printing up $4.2 trillion in funding money, and all of it remains on the balance sheet. This is what pressure looks like. Now, could the Fed print even more dollars? Could it increase its balance sheet to $10 trillion, $20 trillion? Who knows? What we do know is the coming crisis will involve a catastrophic liquidity shortage. There won't be enough capital in the system to keep the world economy going. But the Fed won't be in a position to print more dollars like they did the last time. That will leave the task of refloating the system to their fellow elites of the IMF. The IMF will take over and reset the monetary system, but not with dollars. This is how empires and presidencies end.
But I'm sure some of our viewers are overwhelmed right now. So can you please sum we've covered up to this point so folks can start preparing?
Our LAMP model shows the coming crisis unfolding in 5 stages. We had the initial domino event. Second, the dominoes will go from falling in an orderly way to a series of collapses. The markets will drop an estimated 60 to 70%. Gold will spike to $5,000 an ounce or higher. Treasury yields will go deep into negative territory. And that's when the elites will freeze the global financial system from the top down. Within 48 hours, you'll lose access to your money, period. In some cases, access will terminate permanently. When the elites refloat the system, they won't do it with US dollars. They'll do it with new world currency. I'm talking about the official currency of the IMF, special drawing rights.
For our viewers who aren't familiar, what exactly are special drawing rights?
So the IMF has invented something called drawing rights, or SDRs. From inception, the IMF intended for SDRs to replace the dollar as the new reserve currency. Been planning for this event for many years, patiently waiting. When the next crisis hits, we'll see SDRs taking center stage, dollar for major transactions between banks, businesses, and billionaires. The IMF has already started issuing SDR denominated the World Bank. And when the next crisis hits, they'll refloat the world financial system in exactly this way, by issuing mountains of governments and international institutions worldwide. The dollar will get left out of the new equation, and Americans will wake up to a new post-dollar reality just 48 hours later. Here's the final twist. They won't be issuing any of these SDRs to individual Americans, left with dollars, which will become like our version of the Mexican peso.
Why are the elites so anxious to bring about one world money? I mean, what's the end game?
The end game is control and wealth extraction. If you have one world money, you can have one world central bank, the IMF. Once you have one world money and one world order, all overseen by the elites, they can begin wealth extraction on a grand scale. I'm not just talking about taxation, although a world taxation plan is in the works for after ICE 9. I'm talking about all kinds of confiscation of assets. They'll come after every penny they can through taxation, penalties, regulatory schemes, bank levies, trumped-up criminal prosecutions, and good old-fashioned thievery. In the end, we'll see the rise of neo-fascism around the world, along with massive redistribution of wealth. The elites will come out the big winners. Everyone else, including the middle class, will come out devastated.
I want to thank Jim Rickards for joining us today. And Jim, it has been a real wake-up call, and I have to say, an extremely useful conversation. So, Jim, any parting words for any viewer out there wondering what to do next?
Well, in a word, prepare. Prepare now. Don't wait. The system is on red alert right now. The switch could be flipped tomorrow. It could be flipped next week. But when they